folks, welcome back to Bad Wolf Bobby. Today we're going to be discussing comic books and my favorite comics. I love comics. I read comics. I have a standing pull at my local comic book store. My boys even have their own pulls, which are technically part of my pulls, but they have their own comics they get each month. And I'm going to discuss some of my favorites of all time. And then maybe I'll do another video of what's currently in my pulls. But my all-time favorites of all time comics right now will be in graphic novel format because I bought them in graphic novels after they had already printed in their single issue formats. Or I liked them so much I'd prefer to have them in graphic novels. So I have read comics since I was a little girl. My dad brought me my first comics when I was like 7 or 8 from the comic book store. It was a Barbie and an X-Men comic. I remember. I read them until they fell apart. I love comic books. I recently got back into comics when we were in Colorado, and then we moved here and we found our local comic book store, Keith's Comics. And I learned about pulls, and I'm so excited. If you hear my kids in the background, I'm sorry, that's just COVID-19 life. They're always home. So enough rambling. Oh, one last housekeeping note. Braytac does not have cancer. He has a fungal infection. He has been on medicine for almost 2 weeks today. So much improvement. He's almost back to normal. They want him to be on medicine for a month, and then we're going to recheck everything, and he should be as good as new. Now, on to the comics. My favorite graphic novel series of all time. Like, this is it. I've reread it I don't know how many times. It's a 2-part graphic novel series. Is Hellboy in Hell. This is part 1. Part 2 is back here on my shelf. This is Hellboy in Hell, The Descent. I don't want to tell you what they're about too much because I don't want to spoil them if you want to read them. But I mean, the title pretty much gives this one away. Hellboy dies and goes to hell. And you can guess the kind of chaos that ensues in hell. The first one is called Hellboy in Hell, The Descent. The second part is called Hellboy in Hell, The Death Card. I love this series. I actually love Hellboy. If you can't tell, I have 3 Hellboy pops up here. Hellboy is my favorite comic book character of all time. So I actually enjoyed the 2019 Hellboy movie, unlike a lot of people. So I don't know what to say. I also enjoyed the 2004 movie and Ron Perlman's Hellboy. So there's always room for more Hellboy in my life. You probably can't tell by detail, but this is all Hellboy comics on this side of the shelf. I have a single graphic novel that's just like a bunch of single issue stories put together called Into the Silent Sea. And then I have the first 5 Hellboy story graphic novels. I need to get the rest of them. Really what I need to do is just figure out if there's a Hellboy omnibus and buy the omnibus. It would probably be cheaper. So enough about Hellboy. These comics over here are another one of my favorite series, which is now a Netflix TV series, Lock and Key. If you like supernatural, thriller, horror type genre stuff, this would be right up your alley. I totally enjoyed this series so much. Abby is currently reading this series. Her library had the first 3, I think, and when she finishes those, she's going to borrow mine so she can finish the series. I'm rereading the series currently so that I can watch the Netflix series with a fresh mind. Another tip that if you want to get into reading comics but you don't know where to start is if something has kind of like a cult following, it probably has a graphic novel or a comic. This graphic novel, well, it first came out as a single issue story, and I can't remember how many single issues there were, but I didn't realize it started until I was like 3 issues deep, and Keith's couldn't get me the first couple issues, so they were like, just wait till a graphic novel comes out. This is The Lost Boys Lost and Found. I enjoyed this so much. I really love The Lost Boys. So if you can tell, I like supernatural horror type comics. I like vampires. I have really enjoyed this. I've read it twice. So good. Now we're going to get into the stack of Batman stories I have. Cliche as it may be, I love Batman, but a lot of my Batman stories are not friendly for my kids to read, and so they come into my room and they're like, we want to read Batman, we want to read Batman, and the only Batmans I have that they can read, this is actually the 4th of 6 graphic novels of Batman 66. This takes the Adam West TV series and has made more stories into comic book form. They love these. They read these, and these are the only Batmans that I have that they can read. But I don't know how many times they've read them. I've read them. I really enjoy them. Now, along the lines of the Batmans they can't read, Batman White Knight. Oh my goodness, hold on, I just knocked a comment. But back to this, Batman White Knight. So this is where the roles are reversed and Joker is a good guy and Batman's a bad guy. There's now a second series called Batman Curse of the White Knight, which I'm just waiting until it's finished to read. I'm getting them as single issues, but I like to read it all at once instead of spacing it out. And it's on like issue 7 right now of 8. So I haven't actually read it, but I have them. But I enjoyed this so much. It is so good. It's probably one of my favorite Batman stories. Another one of my favorite Batman stories. And I don't know if they're ever going to reprint this. Because it's a Black Label comic. So let's just talk about that. It's a Black Label comic. And there was still an uproar about this one panel. It's Batman Damned. This is issue 1. I have all 3 issues. First editions of Batman Damned. Yes, this is the one with the Batwing. It's a Black Label comic. And you're not even really getting detail. It's a shadow. I don't understand what the uproar was all about. But so much uproar. Like, they pulled it off shelves. I got my issue, and within like 2 weeks, maybe sooner, it was pulled off shelves. This is about Batman in Hell, if you hadn't guessed. Talking about cult movies, comics. Well, I mean, obviously this is a comic. It's been a comic long before the movie. But I learned about it because of the 90s movie, which some people think is a horrible movie. But that is to be determined. That is your own choice. But I love the 1990s Shadow. So when they released The Shadow, I think it stopped like a year ago, maybe 2. I of course had to get it and read it. I am a sucker for tortured soul vigilantes. This is not Batman. This is Gotham City Sirens, not Birds of Prey. Gotham City Sirens. There is 2 graphic novels, and it is so good. I actually like it better than most of the Birds of Prey series that I've read. I have some Birds of Prey, but I just like the storyline of Gotham City Sirens better. You should definitely check it out. I think you can find it on Amazon. Everything that I can link on Amazon, I will link from Amazon. Because some of these you're not going to be able to get at your local game shop. Your local comic or game shop. I got this at a comic convention. Just perusing the buckets of graphic novels. Doctor Who, The Forgotten. And it's basically where Martha and Doctor Who go through a story involving all the doctors. It's so good. So good. And lastly, this is another one that I got at a comic convention, and it's 3 parts. I only brought the first one up here. It's called Doctor Who, The Prisoner of Time. It came out with the 50th anniversary, and it basically has an adventure for every Doctor. I absolutely adore this. I cannot tell you how many I have read. The Forgotten and Prisoner of Time. They are some of my favorite. Like, I just want to read something, need something quick to read them books. Lock and Key, you know, you have to actually sit down and like be in the mindset to read because there's a lot of like information to process. The same thing with Hellboy, like not so much Hellboy, but it's one you gotta sit down, you kind of gotta be in them. But these you can just sit down and be like boom, 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 and finish them. They're quick, they're fun, they're witty. If I need to get my mind off something, Doctor Who comics are typically always really good for that. And those are my favorite comics series, graphic novels. Most of these were graphic novels, but my favorite comics that I have read up until right now. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. What are your favorite comics? Tell me in the comments down below. Give this video that's about to be recommended a watch. Subscribe if you like my channel. Check out Awkward Club the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. You know, do all those things. Thanks for watching and have a great day.